Over the next few days, President Trump is slated to usher a bevy of Republicans into the White House to wine and dine them over Trumpcare, the replacement plan for Obamacare that looks much more like Obamacare Light than like an actual liberty-based reform destined to free Americans from regulatory burden and allow them freedom of choice in a competition-based marketplace. Undoubtedly, some Republicans, those most in danger of a primary challenge and most fearful of Trumpian vengeance, will cave, but the whole scenario reveals a few basic truths. First, President Trump is not ideologically driven. Anyone who thinks Trump is ideologically driven rather than driven by desire for popularity and power should be disappointed by this Trumpcare rollout. Trump doesn't know what the details are. He clearly doesn't care very much. His plan is simple. Boil down the healthcare choice here to two binary options. Option one, ram through this deeply flawed bill that minimizes political harm to him by trimming around the edges of Obamacare while fibbing to the base that it's been repealed and replaced. Option two, push the bill as hard as possible, watch it fail, then blame Republicans for presenting him with a flawed plan he pushed like a good soldier, and blame Democrats for blocking much-needed reforms. Second, nobody knows anything about basic communications. Trumpcare was rolled out amidst questions about secrecy, just like Obamacare. It was rushed, just like Obamacare. And when conservatives objected to its provisions, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan and Team Trump answered, but it's just part one of a three-part plan. Question. Shouldn't you have led with that, you idiots? If you're going to throw out an unpopular, largely unworkable bill that adds to the debt while continuing to undermine free markets, shouldn't you tell us what the non-crap in the crap sandwich is going to be? But no. Also worth noting, Republicans don't have to do a massive replacement package. They could simply pass repeal, then pass a series of shorter bills aimed at freeing the healthcare markets. Daniel Horowitz over at Conservative Review has a pretty good summary of such actions. Third, congressional Republicans have no spine. It is no surprise to see congressional Republicans on the verge of being wooed by Trump with bowling and pizza. Yes, seriously, bowling and pizza. This allows them to avoid responsibility. Obamacare, like all other redistribution programs, has a set of specific beneficiaries and diffuse victims, which means it's more politically popular than unpopular at this point to keep big swaths of it. Trumpcare allows Republicans to do this while blaming Trump. But Republicans elected in 2010 and 2014, they should be wary of the blowback. You can't keep promising the moon forever and then deliver some moldy cheese as a replacement. Fourth, Steve Bannon is sitting pretty. In the White House power game, it's Bannon versus Priebus. Priebus is the man allied with Paul Ryan. He's Ryan's man on the inside, attempting to shape policy by coordinating with Congress. Bannon is the smash-em-all outsider who couldn't care less about Congress, hates Paul Ryan, and thinks Priebus is a gormless wussy boy. However, this thing now shakes out. Bannon is in solid position. If Trumpcare keeps getting crushed in the press, that's on Priebus. If the thing passes and it's unpopular, that's on Priebus. If it falls apart, that's on Priebus too. And Bannon can point to Priebus and whisper in Trump's ear that if he'd only followed his instincts, all would have been well. Well played, Steve Bannon, well played. Fifth, Republicans lost the healthcare argument because they aren't willing to fight. Republicans essentially acknowledge, by embracing main aspects of Obamacare, the leftist argument that the government ought to be involved in ensuring that everyone obtains health insurance or health care. That's crap, as I've explained before. A market-based system that recognizes free choice and individual responsibility for health decisions and that incentivizes lower cost and higher supply through preservation of a demand structure will not only work better, it will represent a commitment to liberty spelled out in the Constitution. But it's always easier to declare something a right than to be provided by government than to declare a right to be free from government. As always, Republicans have ceded this critical battlefield. Trumpcare looks bad for conservatives. It isn't a major improvement from Obamacare. It represents retreat from central conservative principles. It won't make Republicans more popular. But it does show how cowardice and lack of principle result in horrible policy. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. So I come back from Legoland and Disneyland with my wife and my daughter and my son, and you've ruined everything. You've ruined everything. Okay, that's not really true. There's some good stuff that's happening in the Trump administration, and then there's this healthcare rollout, which is a bit of a disaster, and there's the Women's March, the Day Without a Woman, which shockingly was not a day without women. Women were everywhere in the press. They were wearing red, and lefty women were being bothersome, but we'll get to all of that in just a second. First, we have to say thank you to our sponsors over at Legacy Box. So one of the things that I care about most in life is family memories, which is why I do things like go on vacation with my wife in the middle of the week. And because I care about family memories so much, I've always been a big advocate of making sure that you've protected your photos and your old videos. All those memories, they can disappear so easily because you don't remember everything that's happened in your life. But Legacy Box ensures that all that, the stack of old tapes that you've never watched before, all those old pictures that are just moldering out in the garage, all of that can be preserved, and it can be put on an easy-to-use thumb drive. They can put it on a DVD for you so you can have access to it right away. You just take all your stuff, you dump it in a box from Legacy Box, you throw it to them, and then you send it to them, and they take it, they put barcodes on it so that you can track every piece that's been sent to them, and then they send you back a DVD or a thumb drive with all the material on it. So instead of you having to worry that if there's a flood or a fire or something goes wrong in your house, it's going to ruin all your memories, you've got it all available digitally and at the touch of a button. So that's pretty awesome. Legacy Box makes sure that it happens. If you go to legacybox.com right now, /Ben, go to legacybox.com/Ben, you get a 40% discount on your order, heavy discount, great service, legacybox.com/Ben, legacybox.com/Ben. You can take all those film reels and photos that don't get watched or taken out, send them to Legacy Box, and they'll take care of all of it for you. Again, it's legacybox.com/Ben. You get a 40% discount on your order. Very important service, something you should certainly do for your family. Okay, so we'll begin today by talking about this idiotic day without a woman routine that happened yesterday. It did not serve its purposes. So, if you're going to hold what they called a general strike, if you're going to hold a general strike, and a general strike just means everybody doesn't go to work. If you're going to hold the general strike, the purpose of the general strike, presumably, is to show how horrible things would be if these women didn't show up to work. Did anyone have a real rough time yesterday when women didn't show up to work? It wasn't even a huge percentage of women. When a certain number of women didn't show up to work because they're lefty idiots, did the world stop turning? Did everything implode? No, it didn't. And so that sort of undermines the idea of the general strike in the first place. Also, if they are marching against the wage gap, it seems to me one way that you could help close the wage gap is by, working. If you take the day off and you don't get paid and then you blame men, well, that's not part of the so-called wage gap. That's you taking the day off. Plus, you have to acknowledge that there is a little bit of income bias here. The only people who are going to take the day off are, number one, people who can afford to take the day off, and number two, people who aren't working. Now, everybody who actually has to be at work was at work. So a lot of the people who showed up were members of the American Federation of Teachers, which is a major public sector union, or the National Education Association, another major public union. And it's easy for them to do that because they're basically striking against the government. Other things that were idiotic about this, the ancillary causes in this day without a woman. So Linda Sarsour was arrested. She is the radical Muslim spokesperson for the Women's March. She was arrested at the Women's March for no apparent reason. But one of the event organizers was also a lady named Razmia Youseh Odeh, who's a Palestinian terrorist convicted of killing 2 Israeli men in a terrorist attack. So she was there, so that's exciting. Also, they talked about abortion and what they called solidarity with the sex workers' rights movement. Okay, then. That's weird. Okay. So they were very focused on the key issues that matter. My favorite story that came out of the day without a woman was, according to the Washington Post, some feminists spent the day refusing to smile. Seriously, this is the Washington Post reporting. Some feminists say the happy face they sport by habit or on command is a form of unpaid emotional labor. Okay, this is fake news. Feminists don't smile. So I'm not sure which feminist. They say the happy face they sport. Has anyone ever seen a feminist who sports a happy face by habit? They're the most miserable people on earth, self-described feminists who march and things like this. The happy face they sport by habit. My goodness, yeah, I always think brightness and sunshine when I think militant feminists. That's always what I think of. Also, if you want to win friends and influence people, don't call smiling emotional labor. Like, was anyone forcing you to smile? Was anyone putting a gun to your head? Like, I understand that in our society, in a civilization, we try to be generally pleasant to one another, and I think that's a good thing. I think that it's good that we are pleasant to one another as a general rule. It doesn't seem to me to be emotional labor that people expect you to be pleasant to one another. Otherwise, everybody, then do you really want the world to work like the TSA at LAX? Is that really what you want the world to look like? Like people glaring at you and getting angry at you while they force you to stuff your oversized baggage into that stupid little metal thing? Is that what you want the world to look like? Apparently feminists want the world to work like that. Also, there are all these people wearing red in solidarity for something or other. This is confusing. Here's a montage of some of the people in media wearing red. You can look at this. Look at all these women wearing red. Women in science, technology, engineering, and then all these women wearing red. You know, for that, talking on CNN. So you've got a bunch of people wearing red and then you have people on Fox News wearing red. And it's just like the huge number of people wearing red. It looks like NBC News there. Okay, and it just goes on and on and on. All these members of the media wearing red. All these women wearing red. Okay, ladies, turns out something. We knew you were ladies. We did. I know. Shocker. We knew you were women. And it doesn't help your case when you wear ugly red cardigans or what looks like a magic eye poster on your shirt that is red. And it just goes on and on. Again, is that what statement are they trying to make other than we are women? Yeah, we know. That's why you're on TV in part. Okay, women actually have a relatively large advantage when it comes to getting bookings on TV because people like to look at women in ways they don't like to look at men. Sorry to break it to you, ladies. This is why pretty women are on TV more often than not such pretty women. But all the women on TV wearing red. Oh, well, this demonstrates their strength and power. Actually, it just demonstrates that whoever had stock in the red fabric dye yesterday did really, really well. The other things that were idiotic. Anne Hathaway, the super wealthy actress, she spoke at the UN about equal pay. Anne Hathaway. Oh, my goodness.
Somehow, we and every American parent were expected to be back to normal in under 3 months. Without income? I remember thinking to myself, if the practical reality of pregnancy is another mouth to feed in your home, and America is a country where most people are living paycheck to paycheck, how does 12 weeks unpaid leave economically work? The truth is, for too many people, it doesn't. 1 in 4 American women go back to work 2 weeks after giving birth because they can't afford to take off any more time than that.
Okay, Anne Hathaway, I have an idea for you. I have an idea. You see that very, very, very expensive blazer that you're wearing? How much did that cost? How much paid leave could you provide to a poor working mother if you just sold that very, very expensive blazer and then used it for the paid maternity leave? You can do it. It's a free country. Here's what I don't understand so much. I don't understand why, I have a wife. We have 2 children. My wife took maternity leave with both our kids. Not paid maternity leave, just maternity leave. And we covered it because that's what we do. We decided that was a decision we wanted to make as a family. I don't understand why it's incumbent on my wife now to work longer hours and see her kids less so that other people can have paid maternity leave. Also, worth noting, most companies now grant paid maternity leave. Most companies do make sure that there is a paid maternity leave or a paid parental leave. If a major corporation, most are offering this because they understand it's a competitive way of grabbing up labor, of grabbing up solid labor. But I love these uber wealthy celebrities who sit there and act like there's nothing that can be done for these poor women who can't take maternity leave. Anne Hathaway gets paid millions of dollars to act in movies, okay? She's perfectly capable of helping out these people, but instead it's got to be the government forcing it or the government taxing people in order to do it. And then she takes all her money, I'm sure, and stashes it in an overseas bank account so that it doesn't actually have to be taxed in the United States, just like all these people in Hollywood do. So that is just delightful. Other aspects of the day without a woman. Again, it was a long litany of irritation. Other things. This was an image that was very celebrated. Was there was a statue, I guess somebody put up, of this little girl staring down the bull on Wall Street. Okay, and the bull on Wall Street is supposed to represent Wall Street, and there is this statue of this brave little girl standing down the bull. A couple of facts that should be noted here. 1, little girls, please do not stand in front of enraged bulls. It's just not smart. Okay, don't take this literally. I feel this warning has to be issued because we now live in a world where people make movies about how this little girl has superpowers and could punch the bull into the next county. In reality, that bull would trample the little girl, and it would be very sad and terrible. So please, parents, don't let your little girls stand in front of bulls. Okay, let's just put that out there. Number 2, what exactly is she facing down? Wall Street? Wall Street is bad to women? America is the greatest country for women in the history of humanity. And that's largely because we have a thriving marketplace, including Wall Street. What is the little girl standing for? Communism? Is she standing against the bull? Again, all of this is just images of female strength. Ooh! Okay. Let's talk about female strength in the context of what women actually do. They work instead of going on stupid marches. They bear children and bring up those children as opposed to asking the government to do so. And they actually take place in a marketplace as opposed to standing against the marketplace. That's what they do in America, and that's what makes women fantastic in America. It does not make the feminist movement fantastic. Finally, Hillary Clinton felt the necessity to come out of hiding. Apparently she had her hair done by the same people who did NSYNC's hair. And she, I don't know what happened to that. It did not look like that when it came in the mail. But now she's just donning this wig that looks like some sort of, it's like she took, I don't know, it's like a dead parrot on her head. In any case, Hillary Clinton did a Snapchat for the children. You know, the Snapchat for the children. And she talked about what women are supposed to do while wearing, again, a very expensive jacket that is painted red.
There's a lot to fight for. Planned Parenthood, education, healthcare, jobs. Every issue is a woman's issue. So stand up, resist, run for office, be a champion.
I can't believe we didn't elect this woman. How did we not elect this bag of charisma, this giant, oversized bag of charismatic genius? Wow, how did we not make her president? I can't freaking imagine. Further note, when she says stand up and resist, Hillary, women tried to resist. Your husband didn't let them. Okay, so just putting that. Okay, so before we get to the actual breakdown in healthcare, because that I think is just as important a topic. Again, this just demonstrates the left doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They're terrible at everything, and they demonstrate it each and every day. Before we get to what Republicans suck at, which is apparently replacing Obamacare and repealing Obamacare, we have to say thank you to our sponsors over at My Patriot Supply. So, right now, if you are concerned about the possibility of war or natural disaster, and you should be, I mean, everyone should always be concerned about these possibilities, you should make sure that you go to My Patriot Supply at preparewithben.com. You go to preparewithben.com or 888-803-1413, 888-803-1413, and you get for $99 plus free shipping, you get a huge supply of all the food that you're going to need in case of something terrible happening. It's a 4-week emergency food supply. It's limited to 2 per person. So, you don't have to worry about, you're going to buy 1,000 of them. You don't need 1,000 of them. It's a 4-week food supply, emergency food supply, and that ensures that you and your family are taken care of in case of a natural disaster or some sort of emergency. If you're concerned, again, about terror attack or tornado, if you're worried about earthquake or flood, then you have to have food in your home. And my team has tasted it. They tell me that the meals actually taste surprisingly good. It's canned food and it maintains for like 25 years. It stays forever, but they say that it actually tastes pretty good, which is shocking considering the conditions. But again, you're buying this for emergencies, and that's why you have to go to preparewithben.com right now. Preparewithben.com right now. Be prepared for emergency. Preparewithben.com, 888-803-1413, 888-803-1413. Make sure that you and your family are prepared in case of emergency. So, you may have noticed from the top of the show that I'm very, very critical of the new Obamacare replacement. And the reason that I'm critical of the Obamacare replacement is because it absolutely sucks. Okay, there are a bunch of problems with the Obamacare replacement. The biggest problem with the Obamacare replacement that is being proposed, the sort of Trumpcare or Ryan care, friends of Trump call it Ryan care, friends of Ryan call it Trumpcare. I'm going to call it Trumpcare because the president gets credit for the health plan he's proposing. Okay, we didn't call it Pelosi care. It was called Obamacare, so it seems fair to me that we're going to call it Trumpcare now, especially since Trump keeps saying how wonderful it is. Trump just tweeted out minutes ago, quote, despite what you hear in the press, healthcare is coming along great. We are talking to many, many groups. It will end in a beautiful picture. Of like a pony? Like a beautiful picture of like a doggy? Like, I don't even know what that means. But okay, I'll tell you what's not a beautiful picture is the actual thing. So, I've looked at the bill. There are a bunch of problems with the bill. First thing to note about this Obamacare bill. The free market is a great structure. The minute you start intervening in the free market, the minute you poke your thumb in order to, quote-unquote, fix the free market, you start a chain effect. You start a domino reaction by which you have to get more and more and more involved in the market. And this is a perfect case in point. So this all starts from the premise that insurance companies are evil because insurance companies will not cover pre-existing conditions, or they will charge you more if you have a pre-existing condition. This makes sense, as I have explained 1 bajillion times on this program, because, again, if you have an insurance company, you don't insure things that have already happened. That's not an insurance company anymore. Now that's just a pyramid scheme. Okay, if I burn down my house and then apply for fire insurance, no one will grant me fire insurance because the house has already been burned down. They're not going to say, hey, it sounds great. Pay us $100 a month and we will pay you $100,000 for the house you just burned down. They won't do that because that's stupid. Okay, the economy can't work that way. And yet, we are all fighting mad about the pre-existing condition stuff. Here's the fact about pre-existing conditions. The reason health insurance is useful is because you're supposed to buy it before you have a pre-existing condition. And you're supposed to buy it for your family. You're supposed to have prenatal health insurance. You're supposed to do all these things so that we don't have to worry about the pre-existing conditions that exist, right? Because then it won't be a pre-existing condition. It will just be a condition. That is the purpose. Okay, and anything that refuses to acknowledge this problem ends up completely skewing and destroying the insurance market. That's exactly what has happened here. You end up regulating the living crap out of the insurance companies, then you have to subsidize it because the cost is higher, and then those subsidies don't work because people don't take the subsidies. Instead, what they do is they sit around waiting for the pre-existing condition to materialize, and then they jump into the insurance market, skewing the cost still further, creating what you call the death spiral in the insurance market. Okay, again, all of that starts from one simple premise. Insurance companies are evil, right? They're terrible, terrible, terrible because they won't cover pre-existing conditions. So, Republicans, because they are stupid, instead of recognizing that the government really does not have a place in the health insurance market. It really doesn't. Okay, the government should not be part of the health insurance market. If the government is going to be involved anywhere, the government should be involved only to the extent that it is necessary to prevent communicable disease, for example, if there's an epidemic, because that has externalities. But if you are just somebody who was too stupid to get health insurance your entire life, and now you have heart disease, and now you want the government to take care of you, no. The answer is no. Okay? Because the fact is that in a free competitive market, health insurance would have been available since you were young, and you could afford it if you had a steady job. Okay, that is the truth in the United States of America. Or you saved up the money in some sort of health savings account. Here's the reality, okay? People talk about, poverty being the lead indicator of not having health insurance. That's true. Poverty is also a leading indicator that you're not making particularly financially sound decisions. And so anything that is geared toward forcing poor people to make financially sound decisions is not going to work very well, because poor people who are permanently poor, I'm not talking about people who are temporarily poor, okay? That happens. People lose their jobs. We need to fix the health insurance system so far as government regulates it so that it's connected to your employer as opposed to being freely available to individuals. Okay, that was a government outgrowth to begin with. Again, another case of the government getting involved where it wasn't wanted, and that creating all sorts of terrible externalities. Once you do that, you end up destroying the health market. If you're going to talk about government being involved, however, there are certain places for government to be involved in minimizing government involvement so that we can get toward a better system. There will have to be a transition here. Now, if Paul Ryan and Donald Trump had come forward and said, this is a transitional part of the plan so we can move toward a totally free market, that would be one thing. They didn't. They're presenting this as part one of a three-part plan. First of all, as I said earlier, they didn't even mention it was part one of a three-part plan originally. They acted like this was the whole thing. Okay, which is just idiotic. If you're going to feed me a crap sandwich, at least tell me there's some meat in it, not just crap. Unfortunately, the original bill was basically just crap. So, here are a few problems. First of all, again, it retains all the requirements that insurance cover people with pre-existing conditions. Once you remove that leg of the free market stool, the rest of it just collapses. Then, in order to make sure that it pays for itself, you have to force people to buy health insurance. So how are they doing that? They're taking away the mandate, but they're now mandating, they have a different mandate. The mandate is that insurance companies have to charge you a 30% surcharge, a 30% fine, for those whose insurance has lapsed. Right, so that's the second problem. It also creates individual health care subsidies. So if you're high risk, you have pre-existing conditions, well, we give you money to buy health insurance, which of course drives up the price of health insurance because you have additional demand. Okay. It also subsidizes Medicaid for a greater period of time until 2020. It subsidizes Medicaid, allows states to expand their roles, which is not good, because if you think that a future Congress is going to allow cuts to Medicaid, you're out of your mind. There's never been an entitlement program that has had significant cuts from Congress without significant bravery. And finally, it subsidizes high-risk pools on the state level. A lot of people like this. They say, okay, if we give $100 billion to states over the next 10 years, then it'll help them cover all of these costs, and they can figure out how to use that money. Again, if you think that that's going to disappear, you are totally wrong, because again, anybody who vows to spend more money on this sort of stuff is going to win elections, which would require political bravery. Now, this would be a good time for Donald Trump to use that political bravery. So is he going to do that? Well, we shall discuss that thing, but you will first have to go to dailywire.com to check it out, because we have a lot more to discuss, plus a thing that I absolutely hate happening right here inside the office. I love it and I hate it. I've never loved and hated anything so much, but you'll have to go to dailywire.com. $8 a month will allow you to become a subscriber to dailywire.com. Plus, you can become an annual subscriber to get a free copy of The Arroyo, which is a fictional film set, a DVD copy, fictional film set on the border, all about the border crisis that's happening on our southern border. And right now, by the way, Trump's doing a good job of shutting that down, which is pretty cool. But you can get that DVD copy by becoming an annual subscriber, plus the Shapiro store. I keep promising it, but it is coming, I promise. And that is a promise that will be fulfilled. dailywire.com to become a subscriber, or listen later at SoundCloud or iTunes. And make sure that you leave a review at iTunes and check it out. So we are the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Okay, so now Trump is trying to push this bill. So this bill has all sorts of problems with it. Again, it's not geared toward free markets. It is geared toward more government regulation, and that's just because the government is so stupid that members of the government, Republicans, they gave up on the argument. They refused to acknowledge that government does not have a role in the healthcare system, that this should be a free market system, and this is how you end up here. So Ryan is now pushing it. Here is Paul Ryan, the supposed conservative hero, talking about how the bill will be split into 3 phases.
So this bill, which is the first phase of a 3-phase plan, is what we can pass without a filibuster in a budget bill.
Okay, and this is one time where the Tucker Carlson face of bemusement and bewilderment is totally appropriate. So that is Tucker's default face. Here it is totally appropriate because Paul Ryan is trying to explain that everything is hunky-dory. It'll be split into 3 phases. How about we see the other 2 phases? Is that too much to ask? If somebody is going to sell you a car and they say that, well, we're going to sell you parts of the car, I'd like to see what the entire car is going to look like before I start buying the carburetor. And don't tell me what parts, and if you're going to split it, here's the thing, if you're going to split it up, you stupid idiots, if you're going to split it into little bills, like 3-page bills, and then we can vote up or down on them. Should we cut Obamacare taxes? Yes, that will be popular. Should we get rid of the individual mandate? Yes, that will be popular. Don't wrap it into this giant omnibus 120-page package that affects thousands of pages of law. It's just foolish. And they're running into significant opposition from the House. So there are a bunch of GOP representatives who say that this is a piece of garbage. So you have Mark Meadows, who's a Republican from North Carolina. He's chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, which is the kind of Tea Party caucus that is fighting hard against this. He says this thing does not lower costs.
The only score that really matters is, will it bring down health insurance premiums? This bill doesn't do it. It doesn't really create competition. It allows the government to come in and really prop up the insurance companies, and it won't drive down costs.
Okay, that's 100% true. He's not the only one in the House saying it. Representative Jim Jordan, also involved with the conservative wing in Congress. Here's what he has to say about it.
Every conservative group out there is opposed to this legislation because, as I said yesterday and others have said, I think it's Obamacare in a different form, because we didn't tell the voters we were going to repeal Obamacare but keep some of the Obamacare taxes. We didn't tell the voters we were going to repeal Obamacare but keep and extend Medicaid expansion. And we certainly didn't tell the voters we were going to repeal Obamacare but start a new entitlement, which this bill does.
Okay, and they say does it pass, and they basically say no. In the Senate, people are just as upset. Rand Paul is saying Trump is trying to woo conservatives. It ain't going to work. Here's Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky talking about how this is a giant fail.
I think the White House, the administration, and the president understand that there's enough conservatives that they can't pass Obamacare light. That's why this week what's going on behind the scenes is a charm offensive. Every conservative that's come out publicly opposed to this has been called by the White House and is being cajoled and wooed by the White House to give in. But if conservatives stay together, if we stick together, we will have a force and a negotiation, and we will talk about clean repeal versus replacement if we stick together, because I don't think they have the numbers to pass this at this point.
Okay, they don't have the numbers, but that means that Donald Trump is coming in with both feet trying to beat people about the ears over this thing. And you can like Donald Trump, by the way. Again, you can. It's up to you. You can like Donald Trump. You can hate Donald Trump. It is not good. The President of the United States is trying to ram through a bad bill. Here is what Donald Trump had to say on Twitter. Quote, "I feel sure that my friend Rand Paul will come along with the new and great health care program because he knows Obamacare is a disaster." Okay. So, I love the fact that that quote really should only be read with Godfather music in the background. Right, because basically there's going to be a horse head in your bed in the morning, Senator Paul, if you don't do this. And it is no coincidence that he is deploying Mike Pence, the VP, over to Kentucky right now to try and put pressure on Rand Paul, because he knows that Rand Paul is the leading obstacle. I don't know where Ted Cruz is on this, by the way. I was a Ted Cruz backer in the primaries. You would imagine this would be the time for Ted Cruz to stand up and say no if this bill sucks. But Ted Cruz and his wife Heidi are supposed to have dinner tonight with Donald Trump. Presumably Donald Trump will actually be able to look Heidi Cruz in the face after spending half the primary season ripping her looks personally. But in any case, Rand Paul is being pressured by the White House. There's a lot of pressure from both sides. So, the conservatives don't like the bill. The left doesn't like the bill. Tom Cotton is taking the easiest tack. He's not talking about the content of the bill. He's just saying, it's moving too quickly. It's moving to the senator from Arkansas.
I think we're moving a little bit too quickly on health care reform. This is a big issue. This is not like the latest spending bill that, gets released on a Monday night and passed on a Wednesday and everybody goes home for Christmas and we live with it for 9 months. We're going to live with health care reform that we passed forever. I would much sooner get health care reform right than get it fast.
Okay, so, this is going to be the new line. What's my prediction? My prediction is that they're not going to get enough votes for this bill to pass, and Trump will just allow Obamacare to go forward and fail and blame everybody, because that's the most politically convenient path. The person who's happiest about all of this, as I've said, is Steve Bannon, because he's going to get to blame Reince Priebus and Paul Ryan, and if Donald Trump takes a hit for it, then he's just going to blame Republicans and Democrats alike. It could be really ugly. This is why they should have just repealed the thing. If they were going to repeal the thing, just repeal the thing and then pass a series of short bills that deal with certain aspects of the healthcare system as a whole. But if you're going to take a shot, man, now's the time to take the shot. Instead, what we're getting is Obamacare 2.0, because everybody is too afraid that they're going to lose if they actually cut the size and scope and reach of government, which is really gross. I will say, I think that maybe the grossest thing here is people like Laura Ingraham who are now proclaiming that the problem with this bill is that it's just not Trumpy enough. Here's Laura Ingraham.
The Trumpism of the health care reform, the Trumpiest parts of it, were transparency in pricing, competition across state lines, and even on the edges, repealing the McCarran-Ferguson Act. Where is that in this plan? I don't see any transparency and control of the skyrocketing prices of health care.
What the hell is she talking about? The entire primary season, he kept saying he was not going to touch entitlements. He kept saying that when it came to health care, he wasn't going to let people die on the street. We'll come with a plan so good. It will be government's job to ensure that everyone is... No, okay, this is the Trumpiest bill possible because it is not a conservative bill. Okay, Donald Trump is not conservative on this issue. This is about as far as Donald Trump is willing to go. Do you think Donald Trump would sign a bill fully repealing Obamacare without any replacement? I have my doubts. I really do have my doubts because I'm not sure that Donald Trump wants to take that political heat. But we should find out, shouldn't we? He made that promise, didn't he? It's fascinating to watch how politics plays out when you have a leader in the White House who really is not a principled conservative. It doesn't mean everything that Trump is doing is bad. Right now we're learning that 40% of that immigration, illegal immigration from Mexico is down 40% because of Donald Trump's policy of enforcing immigration. That's a really good thing. We're learning that the jobs report last month was really good. I think that's because there's a lot of optimism that we're not going to see any sort of job-killing measures out of the Trump administration. And if Trump tries tariffs or if he tries bad job-killing measures, that Congress will stop him. So a lot of businesses are really excited. We had a big boom in jobs last month. All this is good, and that goes to Trump, right? Trump gets credit for that. But he also gets blame when things like a major promise looks like it's in serious trouble right here. Now, meanwhile, the Democrats, instead of just sitting on the sidelines and watching all this take place, they keep pushing this idea that Donald Trump is an illegitimate president and all of it is springing from Russia. So Rachel Maddow over on MSNBC, she continues to push the supposed Trump-Russia connections. This scandal, by the way, this Trump-Russia thing, is basically played out. There is no evidence whatsoever that Donald Trump was personally working with the Russian government in order to hack Hillary or in order to skew the election. There's not really any evidence that the people surrounding him were doing that either. Michael Flynn might have been tight with RT, with Russia Today, and Paul Manafort may have actually been a Russian agent, but that's not evidence that Donald Trump himself was involved in skewing the election. And my guess is that if Manafort was anything, Manafort was referred to Trump by somebody outside as some sort of political fixer. Trump hired him when his campaign was in serious trouble, and then when he realized there were all these bad headlines about Manafort, he threw him over as soon as he could. There is no evidence. I mean, James Clapper, who is really anti-Trump, right, the former director of national intelligence, he said there was no information linking Trump to Russia with regard to quote-unquote election hacking, but the left continues to push this story as hard as they can. Here's Rachel Maddow on MSNBC doing that.
Not all of it is just lurid stuff of a personal nature. This guy from the embassy, Mikhail Kalugin, he really did get called home from the Russian embassy in D.C. in August. And now he really is back in Moscow. McClatchy has had some really good reporters on this beat in recent weeks. They found this embassy guy in Moscow. This guy really did work as a senior diplomat in the Russian embassy in D.C., and he really did get summoned back to Moscow while nobody expected him to. Reportedly, while U.S. investigators were examining his potential role in this scheme by the Russian government to mess up our election.
So she goes on and on this way. Is all of this attenuated? Yeah. Is all this really tenuous and flimsy? Yes, it is. I thought that Andy McCarthy had a really good piece on this a couple of days ago over at National Review. He said, for months, the media Democrat complex has peddled the storyline that the Putin regime in Russia hacked the U.S. presidential election. But the bottom line is that it's all falling apart now. It's all falling apart because the FBI isn't investigating Trump, really. There's no information the FBI is investigating Trump. There's no information that Trump campaign is linked to Russia, and it's just not materializing. It's just not materializing. He says for months the media have titillated their audience with election hacking conspiracy fantasy when they cover their behinds by mentioning the possibility of innocence that's in the fine print. And that's true. Every story where they talk about Trump people talking to the Russians, it always says in paragraph 10, this kind of stuff happens in campaigns all the time. So this could be something where the left really blows its credibility on a story that doesn't exist, on a story that doesn't exist, which is pretty amazing because there's plenty to go after in Trump, and they're doing it wrong because they're stupid. They're incredibly stupid. Okay, time for some things I like and then some things that I hate. So things that I like. When first we started this week, a long time ago, we were doing spy movies. The best spy movie probably ever is a very hard-boiled spy film noir, called The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. This is with Richard Burton. And this film is about an American spy who goes over to the east side of the Berlin Wall. He's now in East Berlin, and he's trying to smuggle somebody out. It is a very, very hard-boiled piece by John le Carre was the one who wrote the original novel, and this is the best adaptation of a le Carre novel ever done. Here is Richard Burton in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
The book the world could not lay down now stands with the great motion pictures of all time. John le Carre's magnificent best-selling novel, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
What the hell do you think spies are? How big does a cause have to be before you kill your friends?
And the film itself is very, as you can see, sort of from the music and if you can see the footage, very hard-boiled, very gritty. It is not a happy spy film. It is not a James Bond film. You know, one of the things that's really funny is that James Bond films, you know, we all think that James Bond is a spy movie. And so they actually made, in the 60s, they made a parody of James Bond in the United States. Those series of movies about a guy named Flynn. It was like In Like Flynn. There were all these movies with, what's his name, Conrad. And they made all the James Coburn, with James Coburn. And they made all of these films with James Coburn that were mocks of the Bond films. The Brits know that the Bond films are actually a mock of actual spy films. So we actually make a mockery of a mockery, which is kind of funny. But this is an actual great spy film. Okay, time for some stuff that I hate. Okay, we begin with something that I am personally responsible for. Or at least partially responsible. I can't take full credit because that would be untoward. But we here at the Daily Wire are responsible for this. This book, Reasons to Vote for Democrats. Okay, a comprehensive guide by our very own Michael J. Knowles, whom I paid $400, and then he used that $400 because he's a scam artist to print this book. And I called it thorough, right? Reasons to Vote for Democrats, a comprehensive guide. For those who don't know, okay, this is what the book looks like. You see that? Can you hear those pages fluttering? That's right, you just read the entire book because it is entirely blank. It is entirely blank. And I love that, I do love the fact that Michael Knowles, this is just so typical of Michael Knowles. I asked him this morning, do you have a copy of the book on file so that I can, like, bring it in and do something on it? And he says, yeah, sure. And he hands me one from his bag, from his personal bag. And it is signed by him. Michael Knowles' own copy of his book is signed by him. He signed a copy to himself. In any case, that book is now #1 on Amazon globally. It is the #1 best-selling book in America. So it's a thing I like and it's a thing I hate. It's really freaking funny. Okay, that's really funny. The Reasons to Vote for Democrats is a blank book, and it is #1 on Amazon. Really great trollery, really great pranking of Democrats. Very, very funny. I mean, come on. We pushed it hard. I pushed it hard. It's really funny that a book that is completely empty about Reasons to Vote for Democrats is #1 on Amazon. It also demonstrates, and this is the part that makes me a little sad, this is the thing I hate. Well, the thing I hate, #1, is that Knowles did something successful. But the thing I hate, #2, is that it does demonstrate the role of trolling in our society. And hey, we're responsible for the troll, so it's our fault too. But I do hate the fact that basically things have gone so far that people were willing to spend $10. Thousands of people, thousands upon thousands of people, were willing to spend $10 for this. Okay? You can go over to Staples right now and get like way more paper than you can get like a box full of paper for $10 that has exactly the same amount of content. And it is funny that it is, you know, Knowles insists that I call him a best-selling author now. I said, I'm not calling you a best-selling author because look at this book, okay? This book is completely like just the title. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is 8 words plus his name. Okay, that's the entirety of the book in a table of contents. I wrote 1 word for the book. I feel like I should be entitled to a proportional percentage of the profits because my quote is literally like 1/10 of the book. In any case, pretty spectacular stuff from Michael Knowles. Well done, Michael Knowles. It does make me really sad for America. And I do love the fact that the blurb on the back is also blank. Pretty spectacular. That's really, really funny. It makes me sad for America. Basically, we care so much about trolling the other side that we're willing to spend oodles of money just to make them pissed off. You wonder how we got Trump, folks? This is how Trump happened, because the left is so terrible, we have to troll you with this kind of stuff. It's just funny. Okay, other things that I hate. You wonder why we like to troll the left. You wonder why we like to troll the left. It's because the left keeps annoying us. And the left keeps annoying us to the point where if you look at this particular, if you look at the movies that they make for kids, this movie that they've now made for children, Zootopia. We were on vacation. My wife wanted to watch this movie, Zootopia. And we can show a little bit of the preview for Zootopia, and then I will talk about why this movie is not good and why it is trolling of the right.
Zootopia, a gleaming city where animals of all breeds, predator and prey alike, live together in peace and harmony.
Hi, I'm Judy, your new neighbor.
Yeah? Well, we're loud.
Don't expect us to apologize for it.
ZPD's first rabbit officer, Judy Hopps.
You ready to make the world a better place?
Bad news in this city gripped by fear.
What can you tell us about the animals that went savage? Are we safe?
This is priority 1. Hopps. Parking duty.
Sir, I'm not just some token bunny.
You strike out, you resign.
Deal. Hello? I'm here to ask you some questions about a case.
Then they should have gotten a real cop to solve it.
You are under arrest.
For what? Hurting your free wings?
You are a key witness.
No, he is.
Hey, I need you to run a plate.
All right, I know a guy.
So it's supposed to be kind of this whodunit, and it's very cute and it's very funny. This particular scene at the DMV is the best thing in the film. There's a sloth. Literally, it's a sloth working at the DMV, and it's a very, very funny bit. But here is the thing that I hate about Zootopia. So I'm going to give away some things about Zootopia now. The entire basis of the film is that there's been an outbreak where where a bunch of predators, a bunch of savage animals or formerly savage animals who live in Zootopia have started to quote unquote go savage, meaning they're criminals and they've started to get violent and they've returned to their animal instincts. They no longer act like anthropomorphized animals; they look like actual animals. So otters suddenly are rabid otters, bears are suddenly rabid bears, and one of the things that Judy Hopps, this cop, discovers is that she says it's only predators. It's only people who are former predators and their biology is coming to the forefront. Right? Are you getting the heavy-handed imagery here? Are you getting the heavy-handedness? And the fox, who's her partner, he's very, very angry with her because she is a speciesist. Right? She's a speciesist. This demonstrates that she prefers some species over others, and she is saying that some biology is better than others, just like racists, right? If you think that this is what they're trying to say. If you think that there's a disproportionate level of crime in the black community, you must be a racist. You mean, like, if there's a fact that there's a disproportionate amount of crime in the black community, you must be a racist who thinks that that's genetically because black people are inferior or something. That's what this film is about. And she learns in the end, no, it turns out, spoiler alert, here's the spoiler alert, it turns out in the end that no, it wasn't just that the fierce and the animals going savage are the predators, it's that one of the non-predators, like a sheep, has been shooting them with basically a tranquilizer dart to make them go savage in order to have an object to blame. So you see, it's the white people making the black people in this particular heavy-handed metaphor become criminals, and that's what's really going on. So they can use it for their own nefarious political purposes. This is idiotic for a multiplicity of reasons. It is so stupid, okay? It is stupid because, number one, the analogy doesn't hold. Black people are not genetically inferior, and black people are not genetically committed to crime, okay? That's idiotic. No one is making that case. Number two, in this very movie, it would be ridiculous to suggest, like just in using their own metaphor, it would be ridiculous to suggest that a fox and a rabbit would be equally likely to commit an act of savagery. Okay, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. Proclaiming that all species are exactly the same, right? Like it's amazing. Like they're actually making the case that you should ignore what would actually be fact, like a fox is more dangerous than a rabbit, in order so your politically correct sensibilities could come to the fore. So forget the metaphor for a second. Just operate in the universe in which they're operating. They're basically saying that you should assume a polar bear is just as cuddly and nice as a rabbit. Okay, that's so dumb. That's so stupid. And finally, of course, the heavy-handed giveaway at the end that it's actually the prey, right? It's actually the white sheep that is responsible for the evils of these predators, right? She's been framing them. Again, when people, the metaphor doesn't hold, when people commit crime in the United States, they're committing crime because they're committing crime, not because some evil white police force is forcing them to commit crime. It's really, really dumb. But again, the metaphor is impossible to miss because that's what the entire metaphor is. And that's really stupid, and they never should have put this in a children's film. Again, it is just asinine and generates feelings about racism in the United States that don't exist and shouldn't exist. Okay, final thing that I hate. So there's a new movie that's coming out called Rough Night. The new rule in Hollywood is anything that worked with men must absolutely work with women. For sure, it works with women. So they made The Hangover. Okay, The Hangover is a funny movie. And it's all about guys acting like douchebags, right? That's the entire film is guys acting like douchebags. You know why that's funny? Because guys are douchebags. Right? That's why it's funny. Because when guys act like douchebags, we can all laugh at them because they're stupid douchebags. Okay? Now, they decided, you know what we need? We need female The Hangover. And so they literally went and got Scarlett Johansson and Kate McKinnon and a bunch of other nobodies. And then they made a film that is female The Hangover. And here's what the preview looks like.
This is going to be the biggest weekend of our lives.
This is so much fun. We should do this more often.
Let's get a stripper.
Did anybody see me fall? Everybody stop.
Yeah, see?
Ellen. They're so tiny.
Okay, very aroused by him.
5-layer dip, get to the beans.
Oh, you. All right, I'm done.
My turn.
Sir? Are you okay? Mister?
I don't know what to do. Does anybody have CPR? I'll look it up on YouTube.
He's dead.
Funny because she's fat.
I killed a guy.
Time to call the police.
No. Don't call the police. We'll clean everything and then we'll call the police.
Let's get rid of all the drugs. I'm on it.
Not by doing them. Okay, someone tell me what to do, and I will do.
Because she's using drugs and is fat.
I think we should call a lawyer first. My Uncle Jack.
Sounds like this was an accident.
Okay, so, have you laughed at all? Yeah. That's because you're stupid, Austin. Has anyone else laughed? Okay, no one else has laughed. And the only time you laugh in this movie is because Kate McKinnon makes funny faces, which admittedly she does. Kate McKinnon makes very funny faces. Congratulations to Kate McKinnon. This movie does not work for a variety of reasons, okay? The first reason is because women are generally not as douchey as guys. Guys are generally, like, the thing about bachelor parties is because guys are sexual predators, guys are animals, and they go to strip clubs because they like to see naked women. It is silly for women. Just as a broad society, this whole thing where we treat women and they go to bachelorette parties because they want to see a male genitalia. No, okay, that's not how most women work. And I understand that we have now this forced thing where women have to be exactly the same as men, but most women are not desperate to go to. You want to know why there are not a lot of Chippendales clubs filled with women that are just as prominent as strip clubs that are filled with men? First of all, half the people at Chippendales clubs apparently are gay men. Second of all, it just doesn't work that way, okay? The male sex drive does not work the same way as the female sex drive. This whole, like, women are raunchy and debaucherous as well. Ha-ha! Equality! No. And it's not funny when we do this because there's no underlying truth to it, okay? It has to be, in order for comedy to really work, there has to be an underlying truth. You want to know why Knowles' routine here is funny? Because there's an underlying truth, which is that there's really no strong case for voting Democrat. You want to know why The Hangover is funny? It's funny because guys are douchebags. You want to know why this isn't so funny? Because the truth is most women aren't kind of douchey. They're really not like this. Right? They're not desperate to, like, go and do drugs and get strippers and be jerks and... Like, that's not, most men freed from the constraints of civilization would be animals. Most women freed from the restraints of civilization would not be. Okay, women do not operate in the same way that men do. And that's why this film doesn't work. But again, Hollywood has to make equality into sameness. And so they have to turn The Hangover into female The Hangover. They had to turn Ghostbusters into female Ghostbusters. How about this? How about we make women in movies do things that women in real life would do, as opposed to things that men would do. If you can take the movie and just change all the sexes, just reverse the sexes of the entire movie, then the movie is bad. Because men and women are not the same. Spoiler alert, they're not. Okay, I know a lot of people want to think they are. They're not. Okay, well, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about all the news of the day. Plus, we'll talk about the mailbag. The mailbag is available. Go to dailywire.com and subscribe. And you, too, can have your questions answered and your innermost secrets revealed before a greedy nation of millions. You, too, can be insulted, as Austin just was, before hundreds of thousands of people. If you so choose, go to dailywire.com, subscribe, and be part of the mailbag. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.